Hello, listeners. This is your co host of Mystic Radio, Elizabeth Diane, and I'm thrilled to co host Mount Shasta's Mystic Radio with author and spirit lady Robin Alexis. She and I, among many other things, are the authors of Amazon's best selling book, Shasta the Skunk, Honeybee Hero. I'm also the illustrator, and this book is a timeless treasure on belonging and community, both for children and adults to read. And what we learn about the bees in this book is priceless. I've birthed the nonprofit BeWellHive.org, where all profits from this book and from the Mystic Radio go to benefit BeWellHive.org and its mission for community. And the nonprofit is a 501c3 that is the sponsor of Mount Shasta's Mystic Radio, along with Robin's business, robinalexis.com. I'm a sustainable home designer and the owner of Lucid 9 Design, also the founder of Sacred Geometry Portal podcast and the website where I offer instruction, art, and inspiration. You can find me at lucid9design.com and sacredgeometryportal.com, also at bewellhive.org, where we encourage you to visit, purchase the book, and donate if you feel called. So I am also inviting you to be a guest, to sit in the seat of honor on, do you have a retreat center? Do you take care of the land? Do you take care of feral cats? What is your vision to create a better world? We want you as a guest on Mount Shasta's Mystic Radio. What are the things that you do to tend to your community? How can we make our dreams become a reality? Now I would like to warmly welcome our first guest to Mystic Radio on Mount Shasta, Dan Horton. Dan is a Mount Shasta tour guide, a notable SAG actor, an author of the book Call of the Mystical Mountain, The New Earth Emergence. He's a historian, a hypnotherapist, and is the founder of the Transformational Players of Mount Shasta, where he is the mystical Merlin. Such a mystic to be on the Mystic Radio. He is also an Akatawa Level 3 holder and a true lover of Mother Earth. Welcome, Dan.
Oh, so good to be with you, Lisa, and so honored, so humbled and honored to be your first guest. So beautiful what you're doing here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for all of our listeners to get to know you and to be inspired by how they can be involved in their communities. So, Dan, I would love to hear your call to Mount Shasta and how you've integrated into this community.
Hmm. Well, we could take up probably a couple whole podcasts on that. So I'll do my best. And it's interesting because this book that I'm just honored to be a part of, right? 19 authors, and that was birthed by our friend Nisa Mills, who's a beautiful healer and energy worker who got the call from the mountain one day that it was time to put this book out. And so it's basically everyone talking about their call to Mount Shasta. And as being here for a while, most people that are here, or at least a lot of people in the, as we would say, the spiritual community, have had some kind of a call to the mountain. And it's something that I hear every day for people that I take on spiritual tours. It's sometimes people have been called here for years and they finally made it here. And sometimes they get called to come back and back again because it just reaches them on a different level. And what's been happening more and more, very interestingly, which I think is a really positive sign for all of us, is that, people have been getting the call just kind of, let's say, for lack of a better term, out of nowhere, where they may be, we've had some young people come in where saying that I wasn't even on a spiritual path. And then 6 months ago, I don't know, I had a dream about a mountain, and then, it showed up on the internet and somebody called me and I was like, I have to come to this mountain. which I attribute to, of course, the mountain, and all the energy that it provides and it's here, but also, all the people that are here, in reverence and in love and in deep respect for the mountain, just really putting out that energy. And so people are picking it up, they're picking up that frequency, that vibration, and they're listening more and more, which is very hopeful, I think, for all of us and for Mother Earth. But so I talk about this at length in the book, so I'll try to be brief, which isn't always my strong point, but I'll do my best. So initially, when I saw Mount Shasta was in the year 2000. I was on my way to a Native American Sundance in Oregon. And as I was driving by the mountain, I was driving from Southern California, which most people know is a very long drive. It was the middle of the summer. I was in a Jeep and I was getting really hot and starting to, dare I say, get a little drowsy at the wheel. And all of a sudden, boom, the mountain appears. And, I hadn't even really known much about Mount Shasta, wasn't in my awareness really. And then it was like this huge just energy, I think in the book I say like an energy bolt shot right through me to my being. And I was just wide awake and something just said, you have to go there, right? You have to go there. I didn't go then because I was on my way to a Sundance, which I was energized the whole way up there, which was also a very powerful, one of the most powerful experiences of my life. But I knew I needed to get there. Now, what's interesting is that it took me 19 years to get back. 19 years. And there were, many times where I was going to come back to a retreat, something was going to, and then something else came into my life, and for whatever reason, I got diverted. So at the time, I didn't know why that was happening, but later on, in being now at the mountain for 5 years and really developing a relationship with her, I realized that obviously I had not only growth to do before I could really connect in a good way, but there was a vibration and a frequency that needed to be raised within me to be something I was ready for, I think. And so then when I did finally get here in 2019, I left Los Angeles, and I had been wanting to leave there for a long time, but that's its own vortex, in a
Yeah.
variety of ways. And it kept pulling me back. And then finally, I thought I was getting pulled down to Central America actually at the time. And then I had some personal things happen where my father passed and a good friend of mine passed that I was going to open something up with in Central America. And so that doorway kind of closed. And I really was kind of at one of those, those moments in my life where I wouldn't necessarily call it a dark night of the soul at that moment, but it was those moments of just pure, like, I don't know what to do, but I know I need to leave here and I need to surrender. Went to the mountains out, near LA, camped for a couple days, talked to spirit, got the message, just pack everything you have, just leave and go to the mountains. And I said, well, where am I going? So that's, you just need to trust. That's the main thing you need to do is trust and have faith in the call, and you'll be led. So Mount Shasta was coming in. There were some other areas that were coming in, but I had no idea that I would be staying here. And then once after a 4-month spiritual journey throughout the Northwest and going to many sacred areas and being fortunate enough to meet Native elders and just really sink into Mother Earth on a variety of levels and connecting with Great Spirit, I made it to Mount Shasta in the fall of 2019. And we talk about you brought up community. And there were so many magical things. I mean, when I got to the mountain the first night, I went up to Bunny Flat, which if people don't know is about, 6,900 feet up on the mountain. And I was setting up camp and I was just like, oh, I don't know if I should set up camp here. I just need to get as high as I can. I was just feeling that, vibe. So I hiked up to about 11,000 feet and the stories that happened that first day, you'll have to read the book if you want those stories because there's probably not enough time here. But I'll just say that it was an energy that I had never felt. Right. It was amazing. And the magical synchronicities and experiences already started occurring from people that were coming into connection with, higher beings. It was wild. I'll say that. It was wild. And the community, because you spoke about community. I know that's a big center of what you're talking about here, which is fantastic. To the community, I hadn't seen a community like this anywhere that I've been in the world, just a group of people that were from all different walks of life, all different walks of the earth, but all here for a similar purpose and to evolve as human beings, to genuinely want to be in the heart more, to genuinely want to grow, and to help each other do that. And I felt embraced, and you were one of the first people that I met. I felt embraced by you and many others that were here. And so it was an amazing experience, that call. But I'll just say this. This is one more thing I'll say about that, which is really interesting. Even though I totally loved it here, my mind, and we know how the mind can make plans, right? I had thought, right, and this is one of the pitfalls we can fall into. Because, I thought that I had connected. I was on a spiritual journey, and I was going to be journeying all around the earth for a couple of years, and that's what spirit was telling me. And sometimes we can, or at least I can, I don't know about you out there, but we can get into that. We feel like we've kind of listened and downloaded some information, but then the mind can step in and want to get stuck in what the mind feels its interpretation of that plan was, right? So I
Mhm.
was kind of in that mode, and I had met somebody that invited me to go down to Mexico and Peru, two places that I love, and there was a lot of interesting things that were happening down there. And so I thought everything looked like it was opening up down there on the surface, but something in my gut, which I know now is the higher self, was telling me, nah, I don't know about this. I don't know. So I did some deep thinking on it, and I got the message. Then I started following the message. Message came in really strong, like you need to go to the Oregon coast, and there's a message for you there, and that's where your journey is leading. So I went there. Some crazy magic happened that led me back here the night before I was supposed to leave to go to Mexico. And I held out. I still said, I have to get the guidance in the morning because I'm in the Oregon coast. Had a wild experience with the Raven, which again, I won't go into more than that, but I just got the message from Spirit like, you need to go back to Mount Shasta and you'll have your answer in the morning. And I went back to the mountain and I slept on the mountain. And that morning, I said, okay, I'll have my answer in the morning. I woke up in the morning, and before I went to sleep, I thought it was more than likely I was going to be leaving, even though it didn't feel completely right because I was pulling myself by the mind.
Yep.
Woke up the next morning and couldn't move, literally. And so I was forced to listen. Spirit made me listen. Took me, it was the worst back pain I ever felt in my life for something I didn't want to go through in the moment, but later on realized that it was one of the biggest blessings I ever went through because it took me a few weeks doing various kinds of healing, acupuncture, you name it, prayer, and finally was able to get up on my feet. But what that did is it really forced me, or allowed me is a better word, to sink into the community, to sink into Mount Shasta even more and deepen my relationship. And here I am 5 years later. So there's more to that story, but you got some good cliff notes. It doesn't mean you shouldn't get the book and read the story, but
Yeah. I know there's a lot of details in there that really fill in because I do think of you as a true mystic and those kinds of details that the way Great Spirit's guiding you and the way you've learned to listen, to me, that's the true mystic. And so, yeah, that the book is an awesome collection of stories like that includes yours and others very similar. And I can vouch for it. I have the same kind of like wild story, very unique and very different. And so grateful that you trusted and listened to the call. I had this sense and this knowing when I first met you that you would definitely be here and you would light up when you would talk about like coming back or yeah, quite often you would be like, I'm here now. You would just light up every time you talk about the mountain, and then you'd hear you talking about, well, I'm being called somewhere else, and I'd be like, okay, but it didn't feel the same way. And so I'm really grateful that you had the faith and the ears to hear and that you're part of this community because I've seen you do really wonderful things with the community. So, some of those things are like telling your story, but also all of the coaching that you do, the spiritual coaching that you do in your business and on the tours that you guide. Can you tell us about the tours and your coaching business?
Sure, sure. Yeah. Well, first I'd like to say and thank you for that. And by all means, I'm not trying to do an overplug of this book that I'm so grateful to be in. But I just want to say that the people that are in this book, and I've met several of them, they're all amazing. They all have their own story. And what's great about this is, yeah, it's the call of the mystical mountain. And we all felt that we were called to represent, and be a voice for her, which is an unbelievable honor, right? To be able to do that. But I think more than that, what it is too is it's even the overall scope of really what is it to step into your own hero's journey, and knowing that we all have that hero's journey. And a lot of times we have, journeys within journeys, right? And you've been so complimentary about that I had faith to follow that path. But, I did have faith, but then, again, and this is something I think that I work with a lot when I'm coaching people or even on the tours is, we always have to remember to keep that mind and keep our mind in check, right? Because, um, you know, please, I implore you to not have to get your back whacked out to listen, like I did. And I felt like I was completely in, a higher state of consciousness at that time, being in the mountain, but still, I still got in the mind. And so I think it's a really important thing to remember that, the mind is a very powerful thing. And if it's used in the correct way, the way to really represent and amplify our spirit, it's beautiful, right? But we have to continually work on it. I mean, we both know that there's Tibetan monks that come here every year that are amazing people, and the levels that what they do in practicing non-attachment every day, the people that I've met that are least attached to anything is such a great example of how, hey, every day working on that discipline with the mind, I think is a really beautiful thing, and just having the courage to continually step into that hero journey moment by moment, is for me the key and something I'm always working on. But yeah, thanks for bringing up the coaching and the touring. I mean, that's definitely one of the things I work with. But the impetus to become a guide, I mean, that was part of, I would say, just connecting in more and more with the mountain. And then finally the message came in, one day that I'm going to be, kind of working with her on some level. And that's another great Mount Shasta story, how that even happened, because I'm blessed to be working with Shasta Vortex Adventures, with my dear, dear friend and mentor, Ashlyn, who's been, she's been doing this for 35 years here. And it was one of those mystical experiences that led us together because, I thought I got the message, this is what was meant to be doing here, or one of the things. And, was really excited about it and started working on creating my own company, and didn't have any idea that there's certain time periods that you can get certain permits to do that here, and I missed it, and I had another one of those moments, like, I just kind of sunk into a little bit of temporary despair, I would say, like, oh, I can't believe I didn't know this, and getting in the mind. And then did what a lot of us do here, went out to the mountain and said, what's happening here? I feel like I'm supposed to be doing this. And then just sank into the listening and said, like, and heard that there's somebody in town you're supposed to be working with. And of course, I wanted to know, well, can I have more? No, just go into town, and you'll find them, right? It's like, okay. So I went into town and I walk into this little white house one day that says Shasta Vortex Adventures, and go in there and meet Ashlyn, and it's the slow time of year. It's early February back in 2022, I think it was. And she's like, well, I'm not really hiring guides right now. It's pretty slow. But there was some energy that we both felt together. And we just started talking. We ended up talking for, I don't know, a couple hours, something like that. And then we both realized that we should be working together. And so, and I've learned so much from her, but she's like I said, she's been on this mountain. She's like, she's part of the mountain, and so to have that brought in again, another great message that, I talk to people about, I work with them, is a lot of times we have something that comes into our life, right? That initially the mind appears like, oh, why is this happening to me? And if we can step back right? And do the things like really go to Mother Nature because she's Mother Earth, the ultimate, healer and holder and grounder, and allow you to see like, okay, you know, I can't see the whole big picture right now. Because oftentimes, again, me, I know some of the missteps in my life have been when something like that has occurred. And then if I allowed myself to sink into that, that despair about it, right? Then you're not allowing that next thing that wanted to come in, or maybe it's still coming in, but you're not seeing it, right? You're not seeing it. So again, the mountain, so blessed to be here because I think that, we talk about this a lot. The veil's a bit thinner here, so it's possibly a little bit easier. You're getting a little more support here, which we're very grateful for. But it's something that, we can all, I think, step into. And if we're having issues with stepping in that, just go out and hug a tree, touch the stones, put your face in the water, listen to Mother Earth, and she'll help that mind calm and help you open up to that beauty that's always wanting to transpire in your life. And
Yeah.
yeah, and so guiding, and it's been the biggest blessing of my life, being able to guide people on the mountain because as you say, I mean, the mountain's really doing the work. I'm just trying to get out of the way the best that I can. But just being able to meet people from all over the world and connect with them and be part of their transformative experience is, there are no words.
It's so beautiful how you've come to apply these things to your life that you get to offer to other people, how to connect to nature, how to begin to integrate and experience their own inner guidance in a society where we're just constantly taught to work from just up here and really to understand how the messages can come through with our connection to the mountain or to Mother Earth.
Mm.
And it reminded me, what you were saying reminded me of one time up on the mountain, up at Panther Meadows, which is just one of the most sacred spots. And the Winnemem Wintu local tribe even says it's the birthplace of humanity. And I was up there meditating and I sensed really strongly some of the ancestors, the native ancestors of the land. They were protectors of the land there with me, showing me, and I could feel it coming out of my heart. Like my heart was starting to like expand out really joyfully. And they were just saying, just follow that. Let your heart come out and follow that. And hearing you talk about how you put it to practice and then you offer this to others and how transformative it is, because imagine the extra pain and grief. I know that was pretty painful to have your back out. I remember that time. But then to be able to maybe avoid a whole other set of pitfalls and more pain and suffering by not listening, to being able to like maybe start to get the message, go, wait a minute, am I coming from my mind or my heart? It's so funny. I posted about that today too. Just that very thing about how we can get spun off in our minds and start to spend all this time on a story that we don't even know if it's true.
Mm.
And how that can just, yeah, make our whole day go wrong or potentially our life path. And then, yeah, I've had times in my life where I feel that spirit, source, God, whatever a person calls it, that divine connection has had to come back in and kind of like shift my direction rather painfully. And then, see it later for the grace that it is, and the gratitude that can come through by just surrendering and accepting. And I love the heart mind coherence, kind of being able to master the thoughts, and you let the heart kind of like share with the functions of the brain the right use of how we can engage this apparatus up here.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an ongoing, process, right? And I think that's the important thing to understand is that the mind, the mind's nature, especially the subconscious mind, is it's part of its nature is to, to go back into what it's used to or what it's done in the past. But as an individual spirit, as a heart, always want to grow and evolve and continue to express your love. And so I think the key, at least for me, and is just putting into, practices. And sometimes that can sound, people are like, oh, practices, yeah, some practices are definitely good, but practices that you enjoy, right? And there is no, in my estimations, like there's no absolutes, there's no right or wrongs. It's what do you enjoy? And as you do that, for yourself, it puts you in a higher state that's able to easier than, help that coherence, right? Because,
Definitely.
and it's obviously can be the most challenging when we feel like we have a lot to do or we have this and it really, we have to take that time out. And I always say to everybody, because I fully believe it, it's just if you're connecting with the earth, then everything in your life is going to be easier
Yeah. Yeah.
because she is the great mother, our great mother.
I can just sense that you have so much fun helping guide people to that in their own way.
Well,
Um, yeah.
I'd say it's interesting, yes, 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 and yes. And another thing that's so beautiful about being a guide here is because, the majority of the people that come, right, they're not always super connected to Mother Earth. Some are, some aren't, but they're usually very open. They've gotten called here and they're open and they're excited. So anybody who wants to work, that's the best way to work with people, right? When they're open and excited. Um, but occasionally, you'll get somebody that comes with a friend or, I'm not trying to upset any men out there because I'm a man, but if you can't tell by my voice on the radio, but I'm just going to be honest with you. I mean, the majority of people that come, for guided spiritual tours or things like that, or energy healing and things like that, the majority are women. I feel like it's growing with men. And that's a whole nother thing we could go into on why that's maybe a little taking a little more time. And I do have some great men that come. They're all great men that come, but sometimes, let's say a wife will come with the husband, or somebody will come with a friend, and one person is really open, and the other person is just kind of like, I'm just kind of here to support, or I'm not really sure why I'm here, but she wanted to do this, or so I'm here, right?
Yeah.
Which creates a very unique kind of challenge. It can be really fun though, right? It can be interesting because you have people on different aspects of their journey. Um, but the equalizer or that's not really the term I'm looking for, but the overall connector, I would guess, with anybody, whether they've been into it or they're not, is Mother Earth.
Mm.
In the sense of in the beginning of the day, always, what I do is we really connect in with the trees, the water. And a lot of times what happens is the stones and a lot of times what happens, even if they haven't connected with the nature for quite a while, we bring in some simple practices for them to do and ways to connect and some beautiful prayers and connecting with, the respect for the native ways and they drop they I've not seen one person not just drop into this coherent state of, let's just say, calm, kind of a calm acceptance and also like childlike wonder. Because you show me a child that doesn't like to go and play outside, and I've never seen that child. Unfortunately, I used to teach in the city in LA, and all kids don't, get outside enough. That's something we should talk about working on a nonprofit with too, is getting kids that don't have access to being outdoors more. But, because that's who we are. We are nature. It's like that's the whole thing about, thinking that man is conquering nature is an oxymoron because we are nature. And so when we're out there in the earth and playing in the dirt, and yeah, we have a spiritual aspect to it, but even people that haven't been on this path, they're like, wow, I haven't connected with a tree like that since I don't even remember, but wow. And to see that, it's
I can imagine how blessed that must feel to witness that. And just for me to understand, like how much baggage we carry into our adulthood and the things that we don't understand, necessarily what's kind of in the subconscious of maybe we're not why we're not healing of something, why we're not happy, why we're not in our full joy. And so many times coming back to that place of innocence or childlike awareness and connection with nature can be like this safe kind of space to open up to transforming that and kind of like reigniting or reconnecting with our joy. And what you just said also seems just like a key element of helping, bridge the different aspects of community is
Oh,
connecting again with nature, right? A
totally.
common, yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Because I think when we're talking about, you talked earlier in the conversation about us, being over intellectualized society, right? And so the mind then starts to think that everything has to be complex for it to have a real value. And we've gotten into a point where, well, that can't be true because it's too simple, right? We lost that aspect. But when we allow the simplicity in Mother Earth and the connection with nature being the foundation of what we're talking about here, really come in and allow ourselves to open up again like children, not only does that allow then some of the higher wisdom to come back into you because you're open to it, right? It allows you to learn easier, connect easier, because what do kids do? They just go out and they might not know each other from another, they're not thinking about color, they're not thinking about socioeconomic status, they're not thinking about what you can do for me, they're just playing together. And so if we can bring that into community, when we realize like, okay, maybe we don't know what the end result is going to be. Let's not even think about that. Let's just play together. And you've been doing that for years by leading the amazing ecstatic dance and all the things that we do with that, which is a really beautiful aspect of that. We were doing that together in the transformational players where we were bringing comedy and lightheartedness, but to really deep mythos, right? And bringing in your higher wisdom and working with the shadow and these very deep concepts, but bringing them into a way of light that was play that just resonates with everybody and allows everybody to kind of have this catharsis without having to go through this deep complexity of the mind trying to figuring everything out. So to me, it's like it all starts with the connection. When we can connect in with nature, we can open up to that childlike wonder, and then we can open up to the play and the joy, and then automatically we want to be in community together with that and enjoy each other in that way.
Right. Can you imagine if we started there for doing things like city planning and, you know, like we may end up going a different direction, but if we take that lightheartedness and we open up to solutions then that are that we wouldn't have thought of before. And so all the different kinds of things that we get very mental about or we keep doing the old way, sometimes it's good to have that structure in place, but the ability to open up, like you're saying, and you talked about the transformational players of Mount Shasta, which of course I've been a part of as well. And it's just amazing to see how you've synthesized together this avenue for play and lightheartedness and creativity and bringing community together and the whole idea behind it, transformation, like on a hero's journey. And with that humor and comedy, you take in your background in acting from your time in the LA area and Hollywood and bringing together your education and skills, and then your involvement in Native communities, and then brought it all together in such a beautiful way of wisdom on how we can better our communities. Do you want to add anything to this?
Well, first, I mean, I would say that it was all of us that brought us together. I think it was a truly collaborative effort, and I think how we worked together and how we listened to each other and were able to bring, and just for the audience out there, yeah, it was an idea that I had, but really, and we would create these original plays together. And we also did live tarot, and we did some astral ritual theater, and that involved the audience. And so these were amazing things. But the original plays themselves too were all based on the hero's journey within different aspects. Some were kind of reworked of mythology that we all know about, like King Arthur and things of that nature. Others were just basically created, created from spirit, but all about these heroes' journey. But the way we all work together is, yeah, maybe I would have an inkling of an idea and I would kind of work it a little bit and would bring it to the group and we would all contribute together and we would all just weave into each other. And then we trusted each other enough, which I have to celebrate Lisa and Damiel and Naya and Tara and Chloe, the whole crew, because some had more experience than others, some had none, but we had like this kind of cohesive trust underneath that we all had a similar vision and really wanted to be a heart-centered piece of the community and bring that out. And so the creation that happened was beautiful and, pretty seamless for the most part because it was because our hearts were really involved in it, right? And it's something that, yeah, it's always been a dream of mine to do something like that, and because I feel like storytelling and theater, the original purpose of it was that, right? To really show, not only showcase what's going on in the community, but how we can be better and how we can grow together. And hopefully maybe I can see Lisa on stage and I'm seeing part of myself in her and, okay, wow, this is speaking to my life. And so I think that really came through. And I think it's because all of us put our energy in that together in such a beautiful way. And so I would hopefully we're going to be able to do a lot more of that in the future.
Yes. I would love that. I think there's a lot of potential, and the feedback we got was really amazing.
Yeah.
The transformation that people felt, and the tears sometimes, or just the glow that they would go away with at the end of the evening. Really inspiring.
Yeah, it really has been. So grateful.
Well, Dan, in addition to these things that you've been so active in, are there any other things that feed your soul that help you bring this out to the world, or things that you recommend that feed the community's soul in addition to what we've already talked about?
So additional things that feed my soul. Yeah, I mean, I think again, it just a variety of whether it's allowing yourself to step into creativity, whatever that may be for you, to play, to always be playing, to be in Mother Nature, as much as you can, and to really be always doing whatever you can to step out of whatever your comfort zone might be. Um, I think is key for inspiration on whatever level, and that could be just talking to somebody that you've never met before. It could be trying something new, and giving up that factor of maybe you're not going to be the best at something right away, but just you know bringing new things into your life all the time that keeps that subconscious malleable, keeps yourself evolving, stepping into the great mystery, and whatever that may be for you, it's just really allowing yourself to be part of life, and how that I think translates into community is, when you're stepping into a community or if you've been in a community for a while, is, just finding a way to connect that touches your heart, your soul. For example, one simple way here that I think is fantastic people do, we have amazing humane society here, right? Just go down and walk a dog, volunteer with a cat. Maybe you can go to the library and volunteer and teach kids how to read. Maybe you're volunteering at the ecstatic dance. Maybe you're just, you're opening a workshop for free, or you're going, whatever it may be, and just finding a way to either engage in something that touches your heart or bringing something out of your heart that you feel may even just benefit one person. And I think that's what we need to remember, right? Sometimes is like if it's touching one person, then that's more than enough. That's more than enough. And if it's touching you, guess what? You're one person too,
And every
right?
listener is equally important, all a
Yeah.
part of the whole picture. I know that so many times in life, people can not even realize how much they've blocked their heart walls, because life can have a lot of disappointments and grief and pain sometimes. And so your encouragement to step out of that, whether somebody just already knows my heart's calling me to reach out, I'm going to go do this, I'm just going to take that step. Some people may not even realize that they need to do it. They may feel so blocked in into their own worlds. And so I even want to encourage people who feel like I couldn't do that, if they feel like there would be no support for them or whatever, trust the magic behind reaching out and offering something to someone in community and just see how that comes back, because it's magical.
It
And
really
like you said, it doesn't have, you don't have to be the world's savior. Just one little
exactly.
thing. Yeah,
Exactly. And I think, yeah, many of us can get caught up in that. Like, am I doing something important enough? And I'm doing something, and it's the small acts of kindness, right? Or the small acts of kindness to yourself too,
yeah,
whatever that may be. And it's interesting how you just brought up pain. And I know we're getting closer to time, but there was something I just started, sending out emails to people that I'm connected with as far as coaching and tours and things again. And the thing I was inspired with yesterday, we talked about this before the call, is that we all go through these waves in our life, right? And we all get hit with different things, whether it's a breakup or, having to move or a job transition or and collectively right now, we know what's going on in the world. We don't have to go into that, but there can be a lot of anxiety around many things. And, I think if we can remember to whatever we're feeling with that pain, right? And a lot of times, if we're thinking about changing our life, there's going to be pain involved because, again, the subconscious mind doesn't like change.
right.
And
It's
just,
uncomfortable.
yeah, allowing yourselves to really step into that pain. And what by I mean stepping into that is feeling what it is and looking at that pain as it's alive within itself. It has its own life. And if we can look at that, whatever that is that's coming up on our life, just like we would look at a friend that's going through a hard time, that we would just be there to hold and to hug and to care for, or a child or anybody, right? If we can look at that pain in ourselves that same way and really step into loving that. And once we can do that, no matter what it is, and we can step into that love, we can begin to feel that love again. And yes, reach out to another, or, reach out to me if you want to talk. But we have that energy within us, to do that. And we have to step into that, because I think we're living and we can see in the outside world what's happened is there's been too much repression for too long. And now it's coming out in a variety of ways. And people are like, what's happening here? And so we can hopefully help heal that within ourselves by really embracing, whatever we term as shadow or darkness that might be coming through with love.
Beautiful. Dan, I've always known you to be a man who of a lot of integrity and who is very empathetic, understanding of what other people are going through. And I feel your heart in that space when I've seen you offer that to me and to our friends when somebody's going through something. I know that you have a lot of compassion and you have a good solid center to hold your integrity in. And so I know that you work with people that way. So I highly recommend that people reach out to you either at the Shasta Vortex tours, at your website, danhortoncoaching.com. And I love that you have an offering on your website for a free meditation. It's a Mother Earth meditation. So a beautiful way for people to connect again with their hearts and with Mother Earth for that support in their life. So really grateful that you're offering that. And I know you have a YouTube channel where people can get inspired. It's at Cosmic Traveler 2023. Also, you're on Instagram, iCosmic Traveler on Instagram. And of course, links to these will be in the descriptions of this podcast, wherever it is put out there. So is there any other thing that you want to add? Maybe where people can get your books?
Sure, yeah, they're called The Mystical Mountain. You can get on Amazon right now, and it's right now it's digital. I think the hard copy and the paperback copy will be coming out soon. But right now it's digital, and yeah, if you get a chance to pick up this book, I think it's super cheap. It might be 2.99 digitally or something like that, and it's there's some amazing people in this book and amazing activations. I think you'll really enjoy it. So, yeah, pick that up if you can, and please, yeah, check out the meditation. I think I think it could really help you connect in with Mother Earth, and I would love for you to, if you feel like that there's that you'd like to talk to me or some point after the meditation, and we could have a consultation call and talk about if there's a possibility of us working together. And by all means, if you come up to Mount Shasta, Shasta Vortex Adventures would love to guide you on the mountain. There's also a lot of other great guides in this town. Just come up to Mount Shasta, if you feel the call, and just experience her. Um, and yeah, I think that's it. Oh, if you sign up for the meditation, I will have your email, which is great because there's going to be some other events that are going to be happening. I'm going to be doing some online events, and there's a retreat we have in the works and things like that. So I'd love to stay in touch with you, and yeah, just appreciate you being here, everybody.
Mm. Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you for being a guest on Mystic Radio, for sharing your inspiration and your heart with our listeners. And may we all be inspired to do something each day or each week and continually to help build community, because we're all stronger together. So appreciate all of you listening to Mystic Radio, and I have been your co-host, Elizabeth Diane. This this awesome new podcast is supported by robinalexis.com and by bewellhive.org. We are a 501c3 doing things to support resilient community in Mount Shasta and beyond borders. So please visit our websites and get involved. All right. Thank you so much. Many
And
blessings and be well.
I just want to say thank you, Lisa. Thank you. And everybody out there, please support this podcast. Support Lisa and Robin. They're doing great work, and they're pillars in this community. And your support goes a long way. And just remember to go out there and play and enjoy Mother Earth. She's there for you.
Ah, beautiful words. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you.